Welcome back to another blogging tutorial. In this video, we're going to be going over how to create the blog page, which is what somebody sees when they click on the blog tab in your menu. And it's what shows them all of your most recent blog posts, and then they can scroll to see even further back blog posts. And so on this page, really, we're just looking to have all of our blogs where they can see a short excerpt of the blog, the title of the blog and the category, and then the header image. And then we're leaving some of those additional resources that we did in the contact page, as well as the opt-in that we had on the contact page. And so for this lesson, I'm actually going to show you how you can use one of the pages that we've created before to create a new page on your site that has a very similar style. So that way you're not starting from scratch. So this is what the page is going to look like when we get finished, except for it's going to have your colors. So to get started, we're going to go into Pages. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and go to Pages in our dashboard. And remember, we have that page that we created before that says blog. And so that's what we're wanting to use because it's already in our menu. So we're going to go to Edit with Divi. So now we're getting the three options on how do we want to create the page? Are we building it from scratch? Do you want to use a pre-made layout like we did in the About page and the Contact page? Or do we want to clone an existing page? So this is going to be the first time we're using Clone Existing Page. Now we're going to take our contact page that we created and we are going to use that for our new blog page. So I'm going to click on Contact. And as long as you've been following along with this challenge, you should have this one completed already. If not, you want to go back to the contact page lesson. Right? So here we have our contact page has been copied over. So it makes it so that we don't have to do a lot of the steps that we did in that last video. We're just going to be taking out this section here and adding in the blog panel. We're actually going to leave these resources as they are. If you prefer to change them or you want to do something completely different, you can, or just delete the section. And then we're leaving that same basic opt-in that we have on the contact page as well. So to get started, what we need to do is get rid of this contact form because we're not going to be using that on the blog page. So what we can do is we can just click on the trash can here for delete this row. Or I want to show you a different way that we can manipulate these sections that makes it a little easier to see what's going on. Because it does get kind of hard to figure out like, well, what's each section and what do I really want to be deleting? And so we're going to go into what's called the wireframe. And that's really helpful when you have a lot of stuff going on the page. So if you hover over your page, the left side, you'll see on the bottom left, we have these options. These are the view options while we're working in the builder. So what it's on right now is the full screen. If we click on the one that looks like the large box with the two small boxes underneath, that's called the wireframe view. So I'm going to click on that and show you what it looks like. So you can see here that now it's broken up into different sections. We don't see it visually, but we can see each area and what's included in it. And these colors correspond to what we were seeing on the full screen view as well. So with this blue section here, it's holding the entire contact area, the row that we had below that, which is the one that says the resources. And then it also has those resources section. So if I was to delete this entire blue section, we would lose those additional resources that we want to keep. So I don't want to do that. But I do want to have them into their own sections because I want to be able to change the background color on just the blog panels And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this contact section. This one here, I'm going to delete that by clicking on this trash can. And that's going to take out the full contact section. So if I go back to the full screen, the desktop view, you'll see now that we have our resources section, but the contact has been deleted. So I'm going to go back to the wire. And I just want to let you know, this contact section where it says that was actually manually created. The title was when we brought in that original layout that we got from Divi. And so that's why it says that. We can actually change all of these so that they say whatever we want. Because this now is no longer a contact section. It's actually our additional resources section. So if I was to click here on the toggle, what I could do is go, I believe it's in admin label. There we go. So I can go to admin label and then see where it says contact section. I can change this to now say additional resources section. Or I probably don't need section, but let's leave it there. So now we know that this blue section controls the additional resources. So now I need to get the section that I can use for the blog panel. So an easy way to do that is to duplicate one of the ones I already have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate now this additional resources section. And you see it put it right below. So now I have two of them. So if I go back to the desktop view, you'll see I have resources and then resources. But there's some things that aren't quite right, and we're going to be changing the background so that we can get rid of this, and then we can change this to a different color and make it all the blog. So I'm going to go back to the wireframe. And if I didn't want to do that, another thing that I could do would be to just create, by clicking on this blue, I could create a new section and it wouldn't have any styling in it. But I want to keep that styling, so I'm just going to use this one that I created by doing the duplicate. So now I'm going to delete this row here, which is those additional resources, because I don't need that. And then I'm going to get rid of this additional resources title. So now we have this section, but we don't have anything in it. So I'm going to click on this green plus button, and I'm creating a full width module or row. And now it's asking me, what kind of module do you want? So we want a blog module. So you see here, we have blog. So now that that's here, I want to do a lot of the styling changes, but I want to be able to see them on the front end. I just wanted to show you what it looks like on the back end. So if you ever have a really long page and you need to figure out exactly where something is, you can do that by looking at the wireframe. So I'm just going to go ahead and click this check mark to save that we added in the blog. And we're going to do all the changes on the front end by going back to the full view. So now you can see that they've added in my blog post. But if we take a look at what we're building, the one that I have looks quite different. And so we're going to go from this to making it look like this. So we're going to click on the toggle in the navy blue, which is going to open up the blog module settings. And then there's actually quite a few changes that we're going to be making in here. So I'll have a list below that you can follow. So the first thing that I want to change is the post count. So I'm actually going to change this to 21. Now, if you have less than 21 posts, it's not going to duplicate them or anything like that. It's just going to make it to where once you have more than 21 posts, that it will add a previous and a before button underneath. And then I'm going to make it say all categories. And then we want the show length, we want that, or the content length to be show excerpt. So it's not going to give the full blog post. So we're using post excerpts. Okay, we're going to go to design, and then we're going to go to layout. And where it says layout, in the first section, instead of full width, we're going to go to grid. So that's what gives me those 3 blog posts next to each other. And I created these 3 example blog posts just so we can see the styling changes take effect. If you want to see what's happening as you're editing in these, you can go ahead and do the same by creating just blank blog posts. I just use the lorem ipsum. So there's some styling changes that I want to make. We have this text down at the bottom in the resources that's already styled very nicely. So I want to use that up here. But because these are different types of elements, I can't just copy the style from here and paste it into the blog settings. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do that manually. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're just going to kind of go down within these design settings. So the first thing we have is the text. So we have our title text. And down here, this one is an H3. So we're going to make this one an H3 as well. And then we have our title font. Down here is Lato. So we're going to go ahead and change it to Lato. And the weight is bold. Now we're going to continue moving down until we get to the body text. And then we're going to change the body text to match what we have down here as well. You can see that this is a lot tighter spacing between the lines. The font is a smaller size, and the font is actually different as well. So what we're going to do, we have our body font. So we're going to go here to Lato again. And if you're using different fonts, you will just change these to the font that you're using. You don't have to use the Lato. It's just what I'm using because it came with that original template. And then we're going to scroll down. And now here on the body text, we actually have an 18 body text. So now the size is actually the same. But on our letter spacing, we're going to do a 1. So it widens the spacing a little on the letters. And then the body line height, to get these spaced out higher a little bit in between, we're going to go to a 1.8. So now you can see that our body spacing has been widened up and down height to match what we have down here. Okay, then we're going to go to the read more. And I actually need to turn that on. So let's go back and we'll turn on a few more elements. So we're going to go to content and then elements. And then here we have our show featured image. So we want to have that. That's what we have up here at the top of the image or the top of the blog post. If you don't want to have that, you'll have just the words. So I like to have that image to kind of break up the posts. And then our read more button, somewhere for them to click so that they can see the rest of the blog post. Now, even without that read more button, they would still be able to click on the title of the blog post or the image of the blog post. But we're going to give them a nice button so that they can see exactly what they're clicking on. So now you can see it's added this blue read more link. And we're actually going to style that so that it looks round like an actual button, not just a text. Okay, and then now we're looking at what we have up here. So we have show author. So this is giving the name of the person who wrote the blog post. If you're the only one who's creating content for your site, it's up to you if you want to keep that. If you have a site where there's multiple writers and you give them all credit, then you may want to leave the author name. So I'm going to take off the author because it's not going to make a difference for the reader. They're not going to choose a post based on who wrote it or not. And then the date you see here. That's the date that the post was published. I actually turn off dates on my blog post because I don't want people to feel like something is relevant or irrelevant based on when it was written. I keep my content evergreen, so I'm going to go in and update the content if anything changes, but I don't want somebody to see that it was written originally a year ago and decide that it's outdated. So I leave the date off of the post. And then categories. I do like to have the categories because somebody could click on the category and see all the other posts that are inside of that category. And then I turn on the comment count. If your posts are not getting any engagement and nobody's leaving comments, you might want to turn that off. But I like to have it on because I feel like when somebody sees that a post has a lot of comments, they're more likely to click into it. Then we have our show excerpt, which we do have and we do want, and then our show pagination. So once your content has more than 21 posts, it's going to give them the option to see more or to see the next page. So we do want that as well. All right, so most of our styling is going to be just in this one section here. So I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit. So one thing that we need to do is style this read more so that it looks like an actual button. This is probably going to be one of the more complicated design elements that I show you how to do within the challenge of creating your new site. But I'm going to give you the code below in the post. So don't worry about trying to figure out exactly what all the things mean. You're just going to copy that code and then you're going to paste it into your site. All right, so we're going to go to search here. We're still in the blog settings. We're going to go to search and we're going to go to read more. All right, so we're going to scroll down until we get to this section that says Read More button CSS. So this is allowing us to add code to create a different type of button. So I have that code. I'm going to grab it. All right, so you're going to grab this code from the post below. And now I've added in some styling code for this button. So the one thing that you're for sure going to want to change is this background color. So you're going to want to make this button one of your brand colors. So since I already have the red button below in the resources and I have the blue button in the opt-in, I'm going with the teal button for the blog posts. So to do that, you can either click on this dot here that has the color that I'm using, that it will open the color picker, or you can type in your hex number for the color that you already use. Either way, you can easily change this color to match your brand. All right, so now this looks quite a bit more like what we have in our resources section up here. So now we're just going to make this font a little bit bolder, but we do that in the read more text settings, which are just above where we were. So if we go to the read more font weight, we can go to bold. So now it looks a lot more like this one that we have below. All right, so we're actually almost finished with this page. So it saved us quite a bit of time already having the header and these two bottom sections done. So not too much longer. All right, so now you see we have this bottom border that came from the resources section, and then we have the white background. But once I take this bottom border out, it's actually going to look very stark white because we have two sections on top of each other that are both white. So I like to break up the pages a little bit. So I'm going to change this one to a gray. So I'm going to go ahead and save the changes that I've already made. And then I'm going to go to this blue section here, and I'm going to go to the module, the section settings. Then we're going to go into design and the dividers, and we're going to take out that bottom divider. We have that teal bottom divider. So I'm just going to click on that and I'm going to go to none. So between these two sections is just going to be a straight line. If you want to continue on with the slant or you want to go with the slant the other way, you can do that as well. It's totally up to you. So now that the divider has been removed, I'm going to change the background color. So I'm going to go to Content and then Background and add a background color. Now up here, I'm just going to type in the hex number that I used for the background. So you'll want to just use a very light color of your brand colors. And then click Save. All right, so now that we've styled this section, I think it looks pretty good. Now we just have to make some changes to the sections that we brought over from our contact page, because of course we don't want it to say contact because this is our blog page. So we're going to go ahead and work our way down. So now we're going to change this from contact to blog. And then you can either completely delete this or you can say something about read our most recent post or something like that. So I'm just going to say check out our latest blogging tutorials below. So if you do a recipe site, you may want to do something like check out the latest recipes below or something like that. And then down here, instead of it just saying resources just for you, I'm going to say additional resources because the blog is really resources as well. So these are additional resources. And then this is going to stay exactly the same. So just like that, our blog page is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Once I exit the Visual Builder, I'll be able to see all 3 pages that are now complete. So we have our contact page, our about page, and our blog page.